Hello, everybody, and welcome to Healing Yoga on this later October afternoon. Now, if you have a chair, you can use that or just be seated on your mat. I'll give us a minute to gather any props that you might want for your practice today. Nothing necessarily required. But I always have a block or a little sash or strap and maybe a blanket for some padding if necessary. I will, as always, give the option for standing or sitting for our opening practice of the wake up. And today I will stand. And let's start with the breath. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Inhaling fresh oxygen, exhaling any stagnant energy or any tension we may be holding in our bodies, in our heads, our shoulders, our hearts. Let it go on the exhale. Perhaps using that S snake sound on your exhale to release. And then let's either notch the fingertips to the thumbs or just place the pads of the fingers right at our collarbone, down an inch and out an inch. Massage, tap, or thump. This gets the energy moving forward. One of the directions energy needs to move. So this is an important start of our sequence. Breathing in the nose, out the mouth. If this is a sore spot for you and it's just too difficult to tap there, we can do that etherically with your intention, drawing out and placing in with some intention and energy there. So then we'll shake the hands off and move to the thymus. Sternum like that shot of vitamin C. This can be a light tap or a little bit firmer tap, one or both hands. Continuing with that same breath in the nose, out the mouth. Shake it off. Side seams, spleen points, those for metabolizing, digesting thoughts, experiences, food. Again, these points may be a little sore, so you may want to rub them a little bit more or spend a little bit more time there. And sometimes one side is more so than the other, so you can spend a little bit more time on that side if that's the case. Shake that off. Come to your cheekbones, tapping right at the cheekbones, maybe even moving around the entire orbital bone of the eye. Shake that off. 2 to 3 breaths just to integrate those 4 thumps. And then we'll begin our homolateral or same side march. 3 to 4 rounds, dust off, cross over, 10 to 12 rounds. Breathing in the nose, out the mouth. Always do this seated. I do this every morning in my bed before I get out of bed. I do the 4 thumps. And then I bring my legs around, seated on the edge of the bed, and I begin the homolaterals. And then I stand up and do the crossover. Setting an intention, zipping those words up and sweeping those out into your field to be done. Last time. And hooking up. Shake that off. And let's bring the legs a little bit closer together, and let's go through the 5 breaths of the 5 elements. We'll start in the element of metal, the season of autumn, which we're in right now. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling that sound out through the mouth. Continue with that breath. Think about as you're inhaling in, thinking about anything, the sadness, the grief of the season, and all that it entails with the falling of the leaves and the dying off of all the plants and the trees. As you exhale out, think of the letting go, moving on to the cycle of life as we go into winter, into dormancy, to begin again. From here, we're going to soften our knees into a high chair. Now you'll want to look down. If you're standing, look down, make sure your knees aren't past the toes. We can also be sitting here, and you may just hover or hinge forward a little bit. So I'll come to the side so you can see better what I'm doing. You'll notice a big difference if you draw the knees back and the bum comes back a little bit. There's not so much pressure on the knees. So we're bringing the hands to heart center. Think about heaven connecting earth. That side stretch, lateral stretch. And come back down. Just creating space within our joints for fresh energy to flow, connecting the 2 polarities of the heavens and the earth. One more time. Pause and maybe sit a little deeper into your chair if that is available. Slowly draw up. Fingers point toward the heavenlies. This may be the way we point up if this is not comfortable or available to you. Taking the arms out wide and lift the chest to just a modified heaven brushing in. Gentle back bend. Breath in the nose, out the mouth with any sound that comes to you. And then wrap the arms around. Walk the fingertips back to as far as you can and deeply massage there. Giving yourselves that hug. Shake it off. Now let's take our hands beneath the armpit area on both sides and notice where the thumbs fall, just where they naturally land. Those are some lung neurolymphatic points. Give those a little buzz or a little massage. They may or may not be sore. We'll just rub them a few times. The lungs and the large intestine. are the organs that are representative of autumn and the element of metal. So we're just doing a little detox of those, shaking that off, and then moving in between the sternum and the breasts at the sternum, up and down through here. These are some more lung points, as well as gallbladder points down at the bottom. Again, these may be a little sore or maybe not. We're just making sure the lymph is moving in through there so we can eliminate any stagnant or stuck energy. It is said that pain is merely stuck energy. So ponder that as you are feeling around your body, feeling any sore spots. Shaking that off. Now let's cross the right leg over the left and then bring the backs of the hands together. Cross one hand over the other, it does not matter. And then we'll curl those under. If that's too awkward, just cross one wrist over the other and bring the hands together, taking 3 deep breaths. And then unwind and switch the cross of the hands, bringing that back, step over, and switch the cross of the legs or the ankles. This can be done seated as well as we're breathing 3 deep breaths. Unscrambling energies, finding our words, just kind of bringing things back into balance. Schoolyard hookup is the name of this posture. It's just a different variation of what's called the Wayne Cook posture. Unwind. And let's move out, arms either out just to shoulder height, maybe even diagonal, one leg out to the side, slowly bend and move to the other side into some moving balances. Shooting star, moving very slowly, can be up here, test the waters, breathe. Maybe you can hold this for 2 to 3 breaths. And to the other side, if you have a wall or a counter handy, or if you're just behind, have a chair here, you can always have that in front of you. Many times the mental part of this is like, oh, I know this chair is here, so I know I'm going to be able to balance a little bit better. Continue your movement. Let's do a couple more times to either side. Notice the work, strength, balance, breath. And then come back to standing. Let's roll the shoulders up, back, and down. About 3 times slowly. So we draw them up toward the ears, draw them back as they're squeezed up, like you've got a tennis ball between the shoulder blades, and then we set them down. Gaze both directions. Look one way, and then the other. And then slowly tap the chin down, roll along the collarbone, looking out to one side, tap chin down, roll, looking out to the other side. Come back to center, and now we'll squeeze the shoulders back up toward the ears. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Doesn't feel very good, does it? Draw them back, breathe, and release. Always feels so much better when you release them. We'll do that one more time. Squeeze the shoulders up. Draw them back. And release. By doing that squeeze and hold, we are fatiguing those muscles that really tighten along our neck and upper back area. So at that point, they finally surrender a little bit and relax. So it should feel a little bit better. So we'll take a little wider stance and make sure that your knee is going out over the ankle, not past the toe. If it goes past the toe, maybe step a little bit wider. So we'll bring our hands right about to our hip hinge where the hips and the legs meet. We're just gonna bring the knee out over the ankle. If the knee has a tendency to come inward, then adjust the foot so that the knee is going over the ankle. Again, not past the toes. Everybody's gonna be a little different here, so adjust your stance accordingly. Side, should feel this in through the groin. Breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth, using any of those exhalations. You can also use that Ujjayi breath or victorious breath, where it's in the nose, out the nose, and the exhale sounds is like the sound of a fogging of the mirror. This movement helps to stimulate the synovial fluid in through our joints. Just helps to keep them lubricated. Very important, especially any time of year where there's a change of season. You know, we had our fall in September, but it seems like we've had our winter already. So the body does respond that way. So we just have to adapt. So then let's come to standing here in like a horse stance. We can also be over the chair and do this horse stance. And bring the arms out into goddess pose. Exhale down. Inhale up to star. Exhale. And inhale. One more time, and then we'll pause in this goddess pose if that's available. Otherwise, just come to seated or stay in star. Breathe here. Let that internal rotation happen, like you're drawing those inner thighs toward each other, but the knees are still tracking over the ankles. Active energy in the legs. Come back up and bring the hands to our sides. We're still a fairly wide stance. We're going to go into sunflowers, and there are a couple options here. Again, we can be on our chair here. We lift our arms up and we hinge forward to sweep. Inhale back up. Or we can just come down this way and back up. So here's option 1 and option 2. And I'll do that from the side. Option 1 and option 2. And you can just go in between both options or go side to side, whether it be moving north to south, east to west, being mindful of those knees, tracking over the ankle, widening or narrowing your stance as necessary. Couple more rounds. Breath is flowing in the nose, out the nose or the mouth. One last time here. As we finish in our star pose, breathe. Feel the energy moving through the arms, the legs. Take some effort to hold these arms up. Imagine you're in between two panes of glass. Extend to one side. You can also bend that top elbow down. Breathe. Be mindful. Take care of you. Always. And the other side. Deep breaths. Back center. One more to each side. And back. Other side. Center, and bring the hands to our hip hinge, heel toe, the feet in, and let's do a standing cat-cow. So standing pelvic tilts. Think of just moving the lower body, where we gently press the hips or pelvis forward and then back. So it's just moving the bottom, anterior, posterior tilt. So we move forward, softening the knees a little bit, and back. Breathing all the while. And then we can bring some hip circles into that. So we just let the hip go out to the side and then to the back. Other side. And forward, side, back, other side, forward. One more round this direction, side, back, side, forward. Now we'll reverse and go to the other side first, back, side, forward. This helps bring some of that lubricating fluid, keeping the hips healthy. Other side and back. It's also said that hips are the holder of our emotions. Another thing that gives us pause. Let's come back to the side and forward and back to center. Shake that off. Let's work on a couple more balance poses before we make our way either to the floor or to the chair, whichever your preference is today. So this one will be another moving balance. I'm going to move this chair back a little bit, but have that chair or counter or wall available if need be for this. So we'll bring one knee up, the other anchored, and then that opposite arm. And then down and up. If you're on your mat, you may even step off the mat, give you a little bit firmer foundation to stand on. Let's do 3 more. And if you have to tap down, that's okay. Doing what we can just for today. And then release, shake out that other leg, and then anchor that opposite foot, lift opposite knee, and the opposite arm. Breathe and just move as intentionally and slowly as your body guides you, gazing right at the horizon, which is right at your eye level, your gazing point, your drishti, as it's called in yoga. Shake that out. And then let's go into a standing twist. So it's just kind of a twist on the tree pose. And again, you can have your chair or your counter handy. So lifting up one leg, opposite hand comes to the outside of the knee. I like to put my arm out here. This helps counter the balance as I twist this across the midline. And this arm comes back, giving me a nice upper body or upper chest and pectoral opening stretch. Breathing. And release down. Shake out the legs. Now, if that's a bit much, again, you can be using the chair as a balance point. And using that to lean against, or have a wall, have that, if necessary, to kind of touch back into. Same thing on this opposite side. Breathing. Release. Do you notice any difference from one side to the other? Just an assessment of self. So always good to notice how you're feeling throughout your whole practice. Notice one side to the other, what might be different. And just make that mental note. Maybe we need to work on one side more so than the other to find our balance. Once we find our balance, it doesn't take long to go out of balance again. But if we work to attain that balance, it doesn't take as long to get back into balance, if that makes sense. So balance kind of looks like this. We're constantly doing this. I hope I'm not making you dizzy. But then as we get a little bit more practiced in doing our balance, it becomes more of a finite dance and a little bit more equalized on both sides. So as we're standing in our mountain pose, breathing, to make our way to the floor. If downward facing dog is not for you, that is just fine. Before we do this, let's take a wider stance. You can have your chair back here just for a high, middle, or lower squat. Squats are so beneficial for us, and I know not everybody, it's not available for all of us, but we can practice doing it, and a chair is a great place to do that. You can place your hands down here. You can do it behind the chair or a countertop and come down like this, something for support. But it's very good to keep our legs supple and strong to help keep us our bodies balanced so that we don't fall later in life and keep us strong in our lower bodies. Take one more breath here. And standing in our mountain pose, let's weave the arms. Remember that weaving, kind of cleansing our own space, binding all the energy systems together within our own body being, within our own essence. We'll come into forward fold. Inhale to half lift. And then sink in a little more deeply. With your wide hand on top of the arch side of the big toe, the inside, trace along that arch behind ankle bone, along the inseams. We're tracing spleen meridian. Flare out a little at the torso, along the sides, beside the breasts, almost to our shoulders, and then back down, buzz those spleen points. Remember, that's the third thump. Shake that off. And now we will make our way to the floor, whether it be downward facing dog or just squatting down, whichever you prefer. I'm going to weave my way to forward fold. Place the hands down, walk back, bend the knees a lot, and come down to all fours. Now it's, if you have a lot of padding or if you have any knee issues, padding is good for beneath the knees here. Let's move through a few rounds of cat and cow. Inhaling on that little back bend. Exhaling as you draw that belly button up toward the spine, chin toward the chest. Bring in those side to side crescent stretches. Move your body however it's speaking to you. Now, if you have a blanket or some padding here, you may want that. You may or may not. Or even a block, depending on your availability for this. We're going to do the thread the needle. So with this, reach the arm up and circle the wrist. And then weave that arm down. We're going to thread it beneath arm and back leg. Maybe even rest your head on the block, or if that shoulder doesn't reach down quite all the way, you can rest here. Opposite arm reaches out, up, or comes around the small of the back for a half bind. Deep breathing here. This helps stretch a lot of this soft tissue back here in the shoulders. We're going to come out, unwind, reach, flick through each fingertip, and then the thumb and the whole hand, stimulating meridians as well as shaking off any excess energy. Side two, sweep the arm up. Circle the wrist. Grab those strands and weave thread. Breathe. Bring the top arm down. Once again, unwind, reach, flick through each fingertip and thumb, whole hand, coming back down. Let's bring our forearms down. Soften the heart center so the bum kind of lifts up. This is puppy pose. But you can also take the arms a little further apart. Maybe rest your chin or your forehead down. Nice opening stretch through the chest and pectorals. Breathe deeply here. Next inhale, slide up, walk the forearms forward. We're going to inchworm down. So with inchworm, our forearms are down, our chest drops, bum is still lifted. We scoop down, chest, chin, and then the belly comes down last. Then we'll place our forearms down, gazing forward. Locust pose, or a sphinx pose, excuse me. Breathing, drawing that belly button in toward the spine. Gaze both ways, over either shoulder, a couple times. Assess what you're feeling. And then we'll place hand over hand. If that's not comfortable, you can have the palms facing up. Rest the forehead on the hands. And as if this is a screen, a TV screen or whatever, we'll exhale, draw that belly button to the spine as you hover. Peel up right elbow. Exhale to middle, inhale, and release back down. Then we'll do the other side. I will cue you through the breath and the movement. So exhale to lift and hover. Inhale, peel up, opposite side. Exhale, come back center. Inhale to stay. Exhale down. Should be feeling this in the core. So you want to draw that belly button in and up toward the spine, like we're doing our hook up or zip up. And rest back down. Exhale, lift. Inhale, peel, gaze. Exhale, back center. Inhale to stay. And down. Exhale, hover. Inhale, peel up, other side. Center. Inhale, release. We'll do that one more time to either side. Exhale, hover. Inhale, gaze. Exhale, center. Inhale, lift. And lower. One more side. Draw that belly button in and toward the spine. If this is hurting your low back, you don't have to lift the hands, but just make sure you're really drawing that belly button toward the spine. So we're exhaling to hover. Inhale, peel. Exhale, hover. Inhale, lift. And exhale. Forearms along our sides. Breathe here. Tuck our toes and lift the bum. Maybe the knees are just lightly hovering or just lightly resting on our mats. Using the forearms to lift us back into a child's pose or being with head heel. So child's pose, we would just be here and stay. That bean pose, kind of have the bum lifted, and we're going to rub our hands together, briskly creating that heat. Palming the eyes. Palming is calming. Let the hands just lightly rest. You can feel that energy emitting off the palms of the hands, taking tension away from the body. 80% of tension comes in through the eyes. So this really goes a long way in reducing tension throughout our cellular bodies. Slowly release. Sliding upward. And let's bring our legs forward into staff pose. Drawing the toes in toward the shins. You may want a little bolster beneath your knees or soften knees. So we're just putting a little spin on our Dandasana, our staff pose today, placing the hands forward into kind of a Frankenstein seated position. Draw the belly button in toward the spine and the shoulder blades back and down. Just maybe slowly move your head side to side. And then as if you're carrying a little bit of energy between the hands, which you are, just move those gently side to side, keeping them even. This doesn't have to be a big twist, but it's an isolated movement. Breathe. Center. Come back and then reach one arm and then the other. And then again. And then bring the hands to your sides. I'm sure you probably noticed the arm work, the upper body work in that posture. As we're seated here in staff, weave the arms, lead with the navel as we forward fold and attach. Head, neck, and spine are in alignment. Inhale, gaze forward. Exhale to sink in. Let your chin tuck toward your chest. If it's available, maybe trace spleen meridian once again, or simply weave the arms to come back up to seated. We're going to do that one more time. Weaving the arms, and again, the arms don't have to go all the way overhead. Weave however you weave. Hinge and attach. Inhale, gaze forward. Exhale, sink in. Tracing spleen or weaving. Drawing that up. Shaking that off. Let's do a little detox for the large intestine. So finding those neurolymphatic points on the outside seam of our legs and the small intestines on the inside. We do them both same time just to get them working together for elimination, or if we need the opposite, if we need to stop. And a good way to remember is pulling up from the knee to the leg pit. That will stop it. Say you have loose stools. 4 to 5 passes between the flat part of the knuckle or the notched fingers. This doesn't feel good. And if you have a tendency toward constipation, to release, think about going from the leg pit down to the just above the knee. So whichever way is in your constitution, use that. And if you're not sure, that it doesn't really matter, or if you have a good constitution that you don't have any issues, then you just go whichever way. Sometimes it's, we just have our days. So thinking about this is a very effective technique for detoxing for the large intestine. Shaking that off when we're finished, sweeping off the outsides of the feet. That removes excess energy. And then let's come to our back sides for a flowing bridge. Arms overhead. Now, if you have low back trouble or issues that you don't like to lift up, feel free to keep that tailbone resting on the mat, as maybe you just move the arms and you move in a pelvic tilt pattern. Same thing that we were doing when we were standing in those standing cat-cow or pelvic tilts. So you just move back and forth, gently imprinting that low back, and then gently rolling down to the very bottom of the tailbone. And so the small of the back creates a little space between the mat and the back. So whichever option works for you, heavy through the tailbone. Inhale, peel up, arms overhead. Exhale, lower back down. And again, we're not lifting very high. Just getting that movement. And if you are able, from the very bottom of the tailbone, just rolling up that spine through imprint, and lift, and exhale down. 2 more times. Inhale, lift. Notice the muscles working, all the parts of the body. Exhale, release. This next time, we'll inhale, keeping the hips lifted if that's available. Exhale, release the arms down, and move between releasing and engaging the glutes. This is a good little exercise, so we don't always default to the glutes holding us up here. If you have back issues, you may just want to move between keeping the glutes and engaged and released, or just keep the glutes engaged. Or all together, just rest your backside down. Breathe. Let's do 2 more. Slowly lower down. Draw the knees into the chest and roll the head gently side to side. Holding on to the knees, let's circle them out wide and then bring them together at the bottom. Zip up. Again, circle wide, sit down, bring them up. Last time. Now at the bottom, the knees are together. We'll open them and circle them up and then zip down. Breathe. Last time. Place the feet down and shift the hips to the right, extending left leg. Draw the right knee into the chest, and if it's available, reach behind that right knee crease with the fingers. Right arm comes wide and come into that lying spinal twist. Breathe. Now, if you are in a chair, you can just cross this leg over and then twist away, and that creates that twist in your body, and you will feel that. Remember those different breaths. The sound for this season, the S, grief, moving into letting go. And then the fear, moving into courage of the dark, of the unknown. Shh. Come back to center. And shift the hips to the left. Right leg extends and left leg comes over. Right hand behind. Spinal twist to the other side. The anger moving to assertiveness, finding the assertiveness to be able to work through the anger. And then the bringing down the flame of anxiety, finding anxiety moving into joy and inspiration as you breathe out any of that tension. And then we've got the Ujjayi breath associated with the earth element. It's those things to think about in using different breaths in your yoga. So we'll finish today, knees to chest, parting the knees, flexing the feet, reaching for maybe the ankles or outer blades of the feet. And if it's available, move in between the balls of the feet, between the second and third toes, and just pulse that first point of the kidney meridian, wellspring of life. Maybe place the feet up toward the sky. Maybe extend one leg and bend the other. Think about a baby, what they do in this little posture. I think most of us have seen it. You can draw the knees toward the armpits. And then place the feet down, preparing for our corpse pose, our final relaxation. Extending our legs, maybe finding a blanket for padding beneath the hips or the bum. Arms can be wide. We can even step the feet apart wide into pentacle pose, full surrender pose. That's an option. Whatever option works for you today, please take that and the next few minutes to integrate your yoga practice. Bringing your awareness back to your fingers and to your toes. Take a nice deep breath as you roll to your side. Making your way up to seated as you are ready. And once we are seated, let's just open the arms. Just do a modified version of the human touching divine, the peak pose for autumn. Grief moving into letting go. Inhale, and as we bring our hands together, fingers come to that incomplete circle. Just gathering all that we love into this area. Opening up. Inhale. All the world's problems, gathering them all together in front of us. Last time we open up, full letting go as we and release all of this to our divine, to God, as we take one hand over the other, up the arms, and rest the thumbs over those lung points. Thank you all for joining me today for this practice. Until next time, namaste. Thanks, everybody.